I've been a planning professional for just over 35 years. I suspect I've been presenting at planning committees for around 30 of those. Based on both successes and failures, I can say I've learned a lot about planning committee presentation over those years. If you're involved in any way in the planning process, the ultimate position you may find yourself in as a professional, an objector, or a supporter of a planning application will be planning committee. If you plan to get your point across most effectively, I thought it might be useful to pass on some of the experiences I've had and I've gathered up over the years. So let's start with what then is the makeup of the planning committee. Well, they will of course include local councillors, but also senior planning officers, highway engineers, sometimes environmental health officers. Almost always a legal representative will also be there. Before you attend committee, you should endeavour to find out just how many councillors are on the committee. For some planning authorities, there will be as few as 5 or 6. For others, you might find 12, 15 or more local councillors staring back at you during your presentation. On the day of committee, you may also see objectors to your planning application, and of course, members of the public there for a range of other applications. You may also see local ward councillors who are not necessarily on the planning committee, but are there to speak for or against a particular proposal, which could well be your application. Sometimes you will see members of the press. However, since the changes brought in by lockdowns, many planning committees are now available live online. This means that the press may also normally tune in to the appropriate YouTube channel. Finally, if you're a planning professional speaking on behalf of your client, you can expect that the client will attend and listen intently to your every word. Ultimately, the key to a successful presentation is to be prepared. To start with, make sure you've registered to speak with the council's committee clerk. Some will allow you to register to speak on the day, but don't take this for granted. Ring the council a day or two before to ask them for the procedure to register. You will usually only have 3 to 5 minutes to speak to the committee. The same will apply to any objector. Normally, if there are 2 or 3 objectors or more, the chairman of the committee will ask them to split their comments across the allotted 3 to 5 minutes. Mostly the councillors on the committee will not be restricted to a set number of minutes for their comments. You will find those councillors will almost certainly say whatever they feel is appropriate to win their argument. You'll have little recourse. Do not interrupt or shout out if you disagree. Your opportunity to speak will normally be after the planning officers have given their full presentation of the planning application. You and other members of the public will be called forward in turn. There is usually a microphone. Switch it on. Some councils operate a traffic light system. Others will warn you when you have a minute to go. Make sure you're fully prepared. Write everything down beforehand. It is a mistake to think you can simply speak from the heart and convince the planning committee of the merits of your heartfelt argument. In writing down your speech, think of the key points. You will not have enough time to cover everything. Focus on how you've worked closely with the council's officers. Almost always a mistake to criticise council officers, councillors, or even objectors at the planning committee. As an agent, it's far more sensible to sympathise with those who are objecting, but explain why it is you do not agree. On the morning of committee, type out a 1-page presentation. Read it to yourself out loud and time it. Make changes to make sure you do not go over your allotted time. Once it's complete, print it off and put it in a safe place to make sure it will not be forgotten. Give yourself plenty of time for the journey. Arrive early and get seated. Tell the committee clerk who you are and why you're there. If you can, have a glass of water handy and save a drink for the moment or two before you're due to speak. If you're a planning professional and your client is there, explain to them the format of the committee. Make sure you have a copy of the full committee papers so that you can work out where you are on the agenda and when you're likely to be on. After all the preparation, the next key point is to make your presentation stand out. Start by saying who you are and why you're there. Take the opportunity to look the councillors in the eye. In your typed presentation, you should have underlined those parts of the presentation where you can find emphasis. Be reasonably dramatic without making it into a cheesy Oscar performance. Crucially, don't read direct from your presentation. A head-down, monotonous reading of a presentation will carry very little weight. Conclude your statement with a request to the committee to either please support the officer recommendation or this is why I would like you to vote against the officer recommendation. After you've completed your presentation, you may need to wait for questions. That can often be your best opportunity to emphasize key points. If not, go and sit down. Make notes on which councillors speak for and against. It's always possible there could be grounds to challenge the decision if a councillor or officer speak in error. There will be successful and unsuccessful planning committees. As a planning professional, you hope that the majority will be successful. However, no matter what the decision may be, leave the room quickly and quietly. Do not wait to speak to objectors, supporters or ward councillors to let them know what a good or bad decision has just been taken. It is the nature of planning committees that people become quite irate. Do not make the mistake of being one of them. Finally, 2 YouTube clips to look at concerning the art of presentation. I would particularly recommend MIT professor Patrick Henry Winston. He is quite a controversial chap, but he does know how to get his point across. I hope you found this short video helpful. Do like and subscribe if you did. I should say that I previously made every one of the mistakes outlined in this video. I try not to make the same mistake twice. Ultimately, committee presentation does get easier. Sadly, however, it may take several years. In the meantime, I wish you the best of luck.